Did not know that that was AI generated as a professional who does commercials for a living.
Yeah.
I
The
felt so,
technology is there. It's
it's
scary.
there.
That's why it's like I don't watch the news because I get the news before it's on the news from the internet.
What are
When
you
you
trying
guys
to
were
say?
growing up, you only had like the newspaper and you had the news.
I'm really glad as a person my age that I've embraced it because I would be in that same circuit finding out these things so much after the fact. And I feel so relevant, much more relevant because I know the things as they're happening. But I do think because of it, it has changed our expectations as a society, as people, as viewers as viewers of the news, we expect different things. And I do find it funny when I see the news 2 weeks later and all of a sudden something's coming out. I'm always like, oh, they need to catch up. They need a social media segment.
Is this
Able
whole
to,
episode going to be
oh
about
my
conspiracy theories now?
gosh.
Probably.
I don't know. It can be if you want. I wanted to keep it. I start to panic. I do.
I know you do.
Hi, Julie.
Hello.
Tell you what, I've seen a lot of you over the past couple of weeks, I think.
I know. It's like we're crossing paths so
I
much more.
know. And now you're gone again. But it was funny when you were here in New York and I was in LA, that was wacky. And then I came back
Was
and shooting in New York the day that you left for LA. So it was just a crazy, crazy week. What's new with you?
we were I was gonna say we were both very in sync in how exhausted we were
Oh
after
my God.
my
That's
travel day and your shoot day. I literally feel like I got back to normal yesterday. Like
That was
I've been exhausted.
crazy. This is something because I have to address it. I usually, you know how it feels after a shoot. I can go for day after day after day after day for a shoot, and then suddenly it's over and I'm exhausted. But I don't know how I push through. Sometimes 4 days worth, and then all of a sudden I'm exhausted. And then sometimes I do a 1 day shoot and I'm equally as exhausted the day after it. So I don't know what
Mhm.
adrenaline I'm running on that gets me day after day after day. But anyway, this one about took me out. And aside from that, and I think this is due to stress, I had such a sty in my eye for the second day of the shoot. So the first day was in LA and then the second day was in New York. By the time I got to New York, the sty was taking over. It was like had a life of its own. It was mortifying. And I had to see people, and I didn't want to put a patch on it because I thought about that. I'm like, should I put an eye patch on it? But I was worried that it was going to change my perception, and I was filming with my phone, so I didn't want to change my content capabilities because it wasn't bothering me so much by the time I got to that shoot. It's more about it looked like. My goodness, it's terrifying. I
It
was
was I
purposely
noticed the
didn't cut
first
my bangs.
well, it was funny because I landed in New York. I was like immediately like, what's wrong with your eye? Because I notice things and I was like,
Yes,
what's going on here? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I was like, Helen.
dye in my eye. My God. I don't know why all of a sudden. I mean, they can be related to stress. I know this, and that's what some of the people on the shoot were saying. There was a nurse because this production was very big, so there was a on-duty nurse for the crew, which was I don't know. I want to say it was a first because we've had them before when they're big productions. But she walked in and she was the first person. I was the first person she saw, and she said hi, and I said, "Oh, hi. Who are you?" And she said, "I'm the nurse," and I said, "Perfect," because I have sty in my eye. It was so funny. So she's like, go get a tea bag. Tell me this. Give me drops. It was really funny. But I was thankful because then I didn't feel crazy walking around with this thing. It was
Mm,
really, it was something. But it's gone now. I'm back.
yeah.
It was
It
very
was,
interesting to try and work content around it. I was wearing sunglasses in a lot of my videos.
and you were wearing reflective sunglasses, so that wasn't like the best option.
Really? You could always see what's going on in the reverse. It's like a dual camera.
I guess so. I just thought it was an interesting decision.
It
But
was.
I don't know, it was fun being back in New York.
Hmm.
I went to Jenna's bachelorette party, which was also fun. And then I had a show,
Yeah. It was
which
it
was
was
really good.
a lot of action that week that you were in.
I know. And I got back on Wednesday and I was like, I do not feel good. Because I
Exhaustion.
also had a 7 a.m. flight, so I had to wake up at like 4:45. And you know, I'm not good at, and
Yeah.
the construction next door to your apartment is god awful.
It's out of
It's like a
control.
7 a.m. wake up call.
It
So
is
you got to adjust the sleep schedule.
it's out of control. And it's
It's a
going to
mess.
be for months. And they are like clockwork. And I wake up at 7:08 every time. So it must take me 8 minutes for it to get into my sleep because I know they start promptly at 7. It must take
Yeah.
that long for me to finally wake up from it, but it is so annoying. And the day after the shoot, which is when I wanted to, thankfully, we came down to the beach because I went to sleep that night at 10 and woke up at 9:30 in the
That's how I
morning.
was the day I
I
flew
was
back.
so tired. I never need that much sleep, but I just let myself sleep because I
I
needed
saw an
it.
interesting tweet. I saw something, you can't, this could also lead into our topic a little bit, but like I saw a funny TikTok that was like, I believe everything I see on TikTok just the way my parents believe everything they see on Facebook. And I thought that was so funny.
That is
But
so
I
funny.
saw a TikTok tweet, I don't know what it was, but that women need, it's been like believed that we all need like 8 hours of sleep, but women need more like 10 to 11 hours of sleep
Oh
every night
my
because of your
God.
hormones and just like
What?
resetting that. Yeah. So,
I don't know if I believe
but
that.
I know,
My
I know. I
my
don't know if I
core,
believe you. I mean, I do because I'm always tired. I'm always tired,
yes, you
no
are.
matter how much I sleep. It's been really hard getting up recently too. So, who
Yeah, I think
knows?
it's a matter of how well you sleep because I sleep so well that I need that 7 hours is my limit of what I need at the most.
I've been
And sometimes
sleeping
I can go on
well
6 because
too.
I sleep so solid. So I think that's what helps me feel rested.
Anyway, but I was gonna say at the bachelorette party,
Uh-huh.
I actually slept great, but just not a lot of sleep. But I was the informant on all the Kate Middleton theories. Like
Ooh,
nobody knew what was happening with Kate Middleton on the bachelorette party, and this was like
why do you think that is? Because they're all
St. Patty's
millennial
Day.
age.
I feel like they're more on Instagram than like Twitter or TikTok.
Mm.
So I don't know, but no one had any idea what was going on. And I was like, ladies,
How are they
we
missing
gotta,
that?
and it was just
Ladies.
a whirlwind. And if you're missing it, I don't really want to go back and like detail everything that's happened, but boy, oh boy, did you miss an absolute shit show.
Yeah. If anybody missed it, they missed a lot. I was following it too because, well, I think
I can give the
yeah,
spark
you can
notes
give the
too.
the cliff notes. That's fine.
Basically, like Kensington Palace had announced that Kate Middleton was having surgery and it was planned, but there were a lot of signs that it wasn't planned and she hadn't been seen for months. And they kind of betrayed the public a little bit by putting out fake photos that were clearly photoshopped. Like when I saw the picture for the first time, I immediately was like, this is a really bad Photoshop job. Like I've photoshopped full people out of photos before very well. And this is so bad. And I'm not even like a retoucher. So the public felt a little lied to and like they couldn't trust anything. And then it came out like a week ago, maybe. She came out with a video that said announcing that she has cancer. But now people are even saying that the video is most likely AI.
Oh my
And there
gosh.
are now conspiracy theories on that. And it's very interesting because I've seen the conspiracy theories that, her ring disappears in the middle of the video and everyone's like, that's called motion blur. And then there's another one. I actually saw an interesting take where a photographer was like, her proportions are not the same
Mm,
proportions from previous. So that was like the biggest, most helpful one, where like her head is not the same proportion to her shoulders as it is in previous photos or previous videos of her, where it's nothing to
wow.
do with like, oh, it's a green screen background, or,
Wow.
but this woman's like her shoulder, her like proportion from her bottom of her chin to like her chest is different. The proportion of her head to her shoulders is different.
Wow.
Just genuinely different. And then people have gone so far just to like prove a point on like TikTok, superimposing like Meghan Markle's face on her face in a really, it's like not a good, like it's not like the best like AI, but just to show like this is what TikTok
This is what
can
it
do
can
in
do.
terms of AI.
Yes.
So if you have access to better AI, like the freaking heir to the throne, like there's so
Right. Oh my
basically
God.
all
I
this
didn't even know all
drama,
this part, but
it's like,
because
it honestly feels like you could not make this up. Like it feels so fake.
right.
I
So,
also am like have a
but
weird
Julie,
obsession with like the royal
uh,
family and
I know
when
you
in
do
these
recently.
moments.
Well, I was going
No,
to say not all the
I've always
time.
had it.
Oh, really? Really? Because
Yes.
my friends are all they have like parties when there's a
No,
wedding
I'm
for.
not that level. I'm more into like the tea, the British tea, the royal tea, you know? I like the
Oh,
juiciness of the
the
crown,
Goss.
you know?
Okay. But let me just say something about this AI thing for 1 second, just because,
Oh boy. You
and
love
no,
to talk about AI.
oh, I do, because there was a creator who had her image, likeness, video used for a commercial that she did not do for a medication.
Hmm.
Now, when I tell you, I wish I was before this episode, I was scrolling my phone to see if I could find it because I was like, I want to play this for you, but I couldn't find it. She went on to say this brand, this medication brand, I can't remember what, took her likeness, made a whole video. It is her talking about her experience. And it wasn't, by the way, it was some kind of
What?
sexual thing, like a sexual drug or whatever. It was not a good thing for her to want to be connected with. It is her, Julie, when I tell you, it's her. I would just look at that and say, oh, they shot she shot that commercial. Did not know that that was AI generated as a professional who does commercials for a living. I w-
Yeah.
I
The
felt so
technology is there. It's
it's
scary.
there. It's crazy. And also, she was saying it can make her say whatever. She has no control of it. It's not she has I said, "My God, I hope she can get a lawyer and get some residuals or something for it. She should be paid and
Yeah.
compensated." It's insane that they can do that. What?
Yeah. It's
I don't
insane.
know. It's terrifying. And I don't
It
think
is.
we as general public realize how well it can be done.
Yes.
So we're
That's what
in
people are
trouble.
saying. The thing with the Kate Middleton, this AI is that people are now saying, like, what if, like, what if she's not here and not with us anymore? And they're using AI to, like, give us a little dangle the carrot so that they can announce, like, her passing in a couple of months, essentially, which is, like, terrifying.
Oh
But
no.
on another level, terrifying that it is that good where you could fake someone's aliveness
That's
for,
so nuts. Oh my
yeah,
God. This is why
that
I
is
think
crazy.
this is why society is changing, the world is changing faster than I think we know how to keep up with. Because
Because
if they
I
can,
think that
oh my
the
gosh.
technology that, because I've thought about this a lot. I'm like, the technology that we have now was probably in its like beta like 10 years ago, like working for people higher up. And they probably now have access to technology that we won't see as like civilians for like 15 years, but they have access to it
Oh
as like higher up people.
my
You know what
God.
I'm saying?
You're such a deep
That's
thinker.
always been my theory. That's always been my theory on like technology. Cause I'm like, oh, like what if, floating cars, like, or I don't know, like whatever. But now we have those freaking hoverboards. So clearly they are,
Right.
there's,
Oh my
I feel like a
God.
conspiracy theorist right now.
I have a problem because and I've always had this when I start thinking about, for example, space and how big the universe is, I I don't want to say I panic, but I have to shut down my brain because if I
Hmm.
go there, I'm so overwhelmed and I think it would open up a level of anxiety that I'm not tapped into in my own self
Hmm.
because I do I used to start thinking about other world like the universe and then I'd start to panic on how much we don't know. And I think our brain capacity won't allow us to know that much because fear stops our brain capacity
Hmm.
and we're not
Is this
able
whole
to.
episode going to be
Oh
about
my
conspiracy theories now?
gosh.
Probably.
I don't know. It can be if you want. I wanted to keep it. I start to panic. I do
I know you do.
because I'm very an in the moment kind of liver. I don't like to think forward too far. I don't like to theorize. I start to shut down when that happens. Mm,
Eh,
ah. Oh dear.
anyway, well,
Anyway.
I think it's interesting. I started writing some jokes about this, especially with being home last week. The only time that I really watch the news is when I'm home with you guys because dad plays
Oh.
like the 5 o'clock news, the morning news. He records the news and watches it later, and then he ends the night with news. It's news, 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 news. And what I think is
What's
funny
the
is that
guy who watch? Oh, I can't think of his name.
Lester Holt,
Lester Holt. That's his favorite.
he love
I like
he's
Lester
Lester
Holt.
Holt's biggest fan. I do too. But at the same time, the news at 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It's all the same. It's
It's the
like
same. It's
they
that's on a
are. It's the
repeat. It's
same
on a loop.
news. It's on repeat. So I'm like, why are you rewatching it? Because we already saw this freaking thing that happened in Queens today, and we're gonna hear it again with a different. It's like going on to an open mic and hearing like the same jokes with different tags or references. It's like the newscasters get a second chance to like see what gets a better laugh, but
Okay,
not a
but you
laugh.
know what I find the most funny about watching the news is the delay in real news and sorry, not real news, the delay in TV news because
Mm,
something that was on TikTok a week ago and now it's just coming on the news and so when something comes on and I already know about it, he was like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "It was on
it's on
social
the
media.
internet.
This is old
I know.
news."
That's why it's like I don't watch the news because I get the news before it's on the news from the
Yeah.
internet. So what's the point of sitting and watching? You know what made me this abundantly clear? I feel like I was home over the summer and we were watching like, or maybe I was just I don't know, maybe I couldn't sleep and I was watching like Good Morning America and they had TikTokers on doing food trends and they were doing the like Fruit Loops with ice cream and the grapes covered in sugar and then frozen. And these were trends like months previous, and now they were just on the news. And it's like,
Yes.
well, this isn't trending anymore. And all these, it's like how
You were going to say
TikToks,
old people. No, it's true
no, no, no,
though.
no, no. It's like how TikToks go on Reels, and people on Reels see it a month later. Things that happen on social media go on the like real
Re-
news
TV
three
news.
months later,
Yeah. It is
and then everyone gets caught up,
so funny.
sort of.
That's why I feel happy that I've embraced TikTok and that social media world because I think we're all more current than current events because of
Hmm.
it. Like those who are
Which
on it, it's like I don't know, I say we're in the club, but we know we are finding out these things. It was so funny to me when my sisters, Catherine in particular, was sending me videos on Instagram, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I saw this 2 months ago on TikTok," and I think,
hmm.
and that became a funny thing that people were making TikToks about their Instagram friends seeing things and sending it to them. There was a lot of
Yeah.
funny TikToks made about that, but I'm really glad as a person my age that I've embraced it because I would be in that same circuit finding out these things so much after the fact. And I feel so relevant, much more relevant because I know the things as they're happening.
Yeah,
It
you're
feels
right,
better.
relevant. It's, but then it's like a sense, do we know too much? I kind of sometimes get nostalgic for maybe like 60, 70 years ago. Also, because I'm just a fan of history.
Are
When
you
you
trying
guys
to
were
say?
growing up, you only had like the newspaper and you had the
That's
news.
that's right.
You weren't like inundated with tragedy 24/7 the
No, we
way this
weren't.
generation is. But then it's overwhelming, and it's probably why our generation has so much anxiety or like is depressed because we
Hmm.
know all these atrocities that are happening where you guys are just oblivious, not in a
We
bad
were
way, oblivious
oblivious.
to it. And then I mean, it's nice that we have social media because, I mean, kind of perfect example of like, look at The Crown. They're really trying to control the narrative of what's happening with Kate Middleton. And people on social media are like, we don't believe you
Right.
because you betrayed our trust. You give us a Photoshop picture. Like, we can see through it.
Right. But don't you also think part of the problem is that we are so used to receiving information so quickly? So when the old style of them trying to withhold information until they're ready to release it doesn't work now because of the way our society has changed, because of how quickly we can get information.
I agree with that point, but I also we don't know sometimes when people are withholding information. The only reason people sleuthed out that the fact that they were withholding stuff was because they clearly were trying to like they were trying to cover something up. But if they had put out a perfectly fine picture, I don't think anyone would have,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
people
yeah, I
sniffed
do.
it out. Like I don't know if it's necessarily like, oh, we need answers all the time. I think people just I I think people are want transparency and honesty with government, I guess. Now we're getting like so deep.
No, I think that's the whole problem on why I don't want to get deep into this, but why they want to ban TikTok because
Yeah,
it's out
because you
of
can see what's happening. It's
and
I
it's out
saw
of certain people's control.
It's
And
out of the old
there's a
people's
girl.
control.
Yeah, well, I know I didn't want to say that. I'm going to throw myself under the bus, but it is. It's
You're
out
not
of.
old.
I
I
appreciate
keep
you so
telling
much.
you this. You're
I
not
appreciate.
old.
Well, I'm very young of mind because I'm current to what's happening, and so there's a girl that's I don't know what she does for a living, but she's always asking senators as they're entering the building.
Hmm.
Are you going to vote on the TikTok ban? And she's trying to get this off the cuff, and it's so interesting to see the responses from the people who are voting on it because they clearly don't really know or understand the app.
They
Number
just
one.
they just want to ban it because it's the most used platform by young people, and that's how a lot of young people are now getting their information, and they're
Mhm.
scared because they don't know how to use it, they don't know how to control it the way they can other traditional platforms.
And when you see these videos of people that of the things that they're saying, Facebook is accountable for the same exact thing, only they've been doing it for so long. So it's the
Hmm.
same. They're it's just weird to me. They're not banning, and I'm not good at articulating this stuff. You're much better at it than me, but they're trying to ban something with this premise of another country is taking our data, stealing our data, using our data, whatever. Well, Facebook's been doing that the whole time. And they
My
also,
data is out there, and I got
so I know it's, I don't, the reason or the excuse does not line up. It doesn't add up. That's the
it doesn't.
problem. And I mean, now I saw an article today. I didn't read the whole thing, but how the people who are voting are getting pressure from their kids and teens and different age group of grandkids or whatever not to vote it out or something like that. I just thought an
Thank
interesting article
God.
about that. I know. And I'm like, please talk to some young people, figure it out. I was made a list here of the things that have happened to me since being on TikTok, particularly, and also just social media in general. And I'm going to read it to you just because
You're going on
want,
NPR mode. That's
I
what I'm
am
gonna
going
call it
on
now.
NPR. Go for it. I mean, I'm going for it. But first off, this thing that happened to me, probably of the top of all things, and now I'm not talking, I've learned things and all of that, was creativity unlocked that I did not know I had. This is huge for me at the age of, at the time, I was 60 and I never really took on shooting something by like myself, creating my own content. I guess I was doing a little bit of it on Instagram, taking pictures, but it's not the same. This is a whole door that was opened that I didn't know I had, and then it subsequently went into learning so many things and finding out information and then understanding things about myself that I didn't know because now I'm hearing somebody and I'm relating to that person and that, oh my gosh, that person has that and I have that too. This is so things were unlocked learning wise, creativity wise, and also being able to the reach. Go for it.
I would just like to say,
Raising your hand.
because I don't want to, I figured out that I have ADHD because of TikTok. Like, it's crazy.
Yes, things
I
we
can
have
learn so
learned.
much. I would not never have figured that out or knew that. Just thought it was normal.
I I 100% hear you. And that's my point is there's people who I've never would never know what it's like to go through chemo. So I know people who have done it, but I always thought they go off the trail and they do chemo for 6 months, and then they come back to real life and whatever happens, they either make it or if things don't go well and they go into another area of their life. But I became the person who lived that out loud and said, oh, this is what it's like to go through chemo. Your whole life doesn't stop. You can do all these
Hmm.
other things and you can fit this into your life. So that's something. And now I'm seeing other people talking about that. And maybe I wasn't really in cancer TikTok at the time, so I didn't know there was other people posting about this too. But the learning that can happen on a topic that you are so unfamiliar with. And then your mind is open a little bit where maybe we're
Hmm.
relating to people who have opposing views because we didn't we've learned from them why they have a certain view on something because we're learning something. I just think it's a world of it's like TikTok University. I said it from the beginning.
Yeah, you branded
I did not. I just
it.
embraced it. I know. That's it. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different and it's helpful. But I do think because of it, it has changed our expectations as a society, as people, as viewers of now, as viewers of the news. We expect different things. And I do find it funny when I see the news 2 weeks later and all of a sudden something's coming out. I'm always like, oh, they need to catch up. They need a social media segment,
They need an
AKA
intern.
they need. They need me and a social media segment to help them keep up, keep current.
Mhm.
Today's show, still channeling.
One day it'll
One
happen.
day, I refuse to let it go. In my mind, it's staying there. I don't know. I want to just circle back because you mentioned that you had a show, and I do want to talk about that for a second because it was so good. It was so cool to see you at the Gotham Comedy Club. It's so legit, right in our neighborhood. Good content, different set that you did, and how well it was received by the place. So congrats on that. We didn't really give that its due,
Thanks.
so I want to do that. It was really fun.
And I just got a date to produce my first comedy show last week. So I'm excited. It's going to be a women's only, like
Mm-hmm.
comedians. I need to think of like a name. I need to think of like branding for it. So I'm in the works on brainstorming that right
Oh, I'm
now.
excited.
And I got to put together a lineup. I want to get like a headliner of some sorts, of someone who's like a little bit bigger than just comedians on my level. And I'm excited. May 22nd, I think is when it's going to happen.
Okay. Do you
And
know
it might
where
be,
is it going to be? Do you want to say or no?
it's going to be at Comedy Boulevard in Los Angeles. It's a
Okay.
small little
Okay.
comedy club. And yeah, I got to start working on building the lineup, getting people organized. And I'm excited because it could turn into a monthly thing. And I think the next step for me is producing shows. It's the best way to network. It's the best way to give myself stage time, give myself some credibility.
When you produce a show, I would like to know, do you also MC the show? Are you the host or
Ye-
something? Or how is that a definite or is that
Yes.
not definite?
I think it's definite for the first few at least. And then eventually I could get like guest hosts to cover if I like don't want to MC every month. But I think for the beginning I will be. I'm hosting a show next Friday for the first time at the same place. I'm
Oh,
gonna be like the
wow.
MC.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah. So new skills.
Oh my gosh, because that's more like off the cuff because you have to think quick on your feet. Usually those MCs say something about the last comedian to tie into their, right? And then you have to think of interstitial bits. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to call them interstitials, those little bits that go between the comedians. That's a
Hmm.
word for commercials and between commercials, I think, an interstitial. I don't know. Look it
It
up. It's
sounds like a
definitely a word.
fake word, but
No, no, it's a real word. Interstitial. We should Google it.
it's
But
fine. I believe
it's
you.
it's a short. I remember them for commercials because we had to create interstitials. I remember this. So you are now going to be doing the interstitials for the comedy for the comedians. So it's in between and you have to. I mean, so most of them do say something funny about the previous one, or they roll into the next one.
Hmm.
What do you think about that? You thinking that's
I'm
gonna?
getting better at it. I think it's kind of easy. And the thing about doing those little bits in between is like if it doesn't get laughed, it's not the biggest deal. It's like
True.
it's off the cuff. No one's really like expecting you to be super funny in between, I guess. Especially for these smaller shows, it's not as much of a burden, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But I am practicing when I go to open mics now. I usually will go to two, and one of them I will do like a full set of material, kind of based on like the vibe. And then the second one, I'll try and go last, so or close to the end, so I can riff off of things that other comedians have said. So it's like I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, you've
And
done that on a couple of shows too,
yeah,
where you did like
so
they were talking about the stripper name, and then you came up with yours, right? And then
yeah,
I think again you did it
I
again
did
and
it this last show
yeah, what did you do?
because
I
the
can't remember.
because it was the host. He was like promoting because the show is run by this producer who also has like a comedy school. So he was promoting like signing up for the comedy classes and basically said, like, if you want to get paid for telling jokes about your dick, then sign up for this class. So I went on stage and I was like, well, I'm not going to tell jokes about my dick, so don't worry. And it got a really big
That
laugh.
was
And I'm
good.
so excited to get that clip because that's going right on social media. That is
That's good. That's a
title when
good
you're the
social
only
media.
when you're the only woman on the lineup.
That's good. I like that. It was funny.
It
Even
was a good
grandma
show.
came and she approved of
And
your
oh my
funniness.
God, that was funny too because Grandma and Aunt Catherine came and they were like, why does everyone have to be so vulgar? And I'm like, if only you knew half the stuff that I've had to listen to at open mics and how I've had to see people mime or charade very
Mm,
lewd and inappropriate things. You
it's
would,
rough.
I did have one joke I did an open mic once because a lot of the comedians were making a lot of jokes about women. And another comedian made jokes about how for diversity, it's kind of sad that tolerance is like the motto because that's just like you're tolerating
Hmm.
it. So I got upstage and I was like, I get that I'm gonna use that as my new motto for comedy because I have to tolerate so many men making terrible jokes.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting better. See, look at that.
Yeah, good. You got to. I think that doing the producing thing is going to give you more confidence in general because you were really confident at this last show. I thought I didn't even
I mean,
notice
I'm getting
because
better.
yeah, it's sometimes I find it funny that you seem nervous before and then you get up there. I'm like, man, you don't even seem nervous once you get up there. So
It is really weird because once I get up there, it kind of goes away. Like all the nerves
wow,
just kind of like melt.
that's amazing. Good for you.
Um, yeah, it's weird because then I get nervous. I don't get, it's really dependent on the crowd, I guess, because some shows I'll get really nervous on stage and it's like if I feel like they're not enjoying themselves,
Mm.
then I get really nervous and like, oh, I'm bothering them,
Oh, oh,
which is
that's
so
funny.
stupid. I'm like, oh, I'm just bothering everybody with my thoughts. Like I should just get off stage, which is like so funny because it's the
That's
opposite
so
of,
funny.
okay, one other thing. We've talked about this before when comedians like not yell, but they get angry at the audience for not
Oh,
laughing.
mm.
I was networking with someone that a friend connected me with who's a comedian, produces shows, more of a writer here in LA. And he was like, never like blame your audience was like one of the things he said. He's like, I do not like when people do that. I think it's like a sign of weakness. Like, don't blame your audience if they're
Mm.
not getting your jokes. Like, just don't do it. And then I was listening to a podcast by another comedian, Mike Birbiglia, podcast we listen to all the time. And he said the same thing. Like,
Wow.
never admit you're bombing, never admit it's not going well, because then you'll get it in the audience's mind that you think it's not going well.
Mm.
And then they won't want to laugh anymore because like they think
I
you're like done.
that is so good.
Yeah.
What's funny
It's
is
kind of
that
like
you
why I
didn't even
hate,
hear all this before you heard you because you said that a lot of male comedians do that in particular. They will blame the
yeah,
audience. And I had never thought about that before. And that's just something I thought you noticed. And now it's
you're
obviously
seeing
a
it.
thing. I'm seeing it I could pick it out in those comedians when they start saying, "Oh, guys, you didn't like that one." All right, you don't have to acknowledge that the audience didn't like it. Just move on.
Yeah, maybe, yeah,
Maybe they didn't. Whatever.
maybe you're not funny.
Oh my gosh, we were sitting. So I was sitting with Dad and his colleague Scott, who the comedian that came on and started making 9/11 jokes. And do you remember this? Were you
Mm.
listening to this? It was really bad.
I mean, I made one 9/11 joke and it did not go over well. So now I know,
When?
don't do that one. About Jonathan liking
Oh,
9/11 documentaries.
that was more about him
But it
liking
wasn't
docu.
like
Yeah,
it
yeah, I
wasn't
see.
like,
I didn't even notice it because that's just something I know that he likes. But anyway,
you know,
you're
he's
right though. This guy was going like went way deep, and so the guy that was sitting with us, Dad's friend, said too soon. Like out loud, and I said, "There's no way it will ever not be too soon for those jokes." So yeah, just
especially in New York. If those jokes were done like in LA, and because
I
my
don't
friends have
even
some
know.
9/11 jokes, like they work better not in New York and
Oh,
not
geez,
nearby.
I just don't
So
even
I think
think
it's
I
just like
don't.
audience dependent. But
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
yes, we can end on the fact that I really want to do a questions episode from
Oh,
listeners. So let's
okay.
do a quick plug for we need some questions.
Do you know what would be good is we almost want to give people, I think a lot of times people can't think of questions out of the blue, but
Yeah.
we can give them topics like here's some questions, like feel free to ask us questions about our childhood. Feel free to ask us questions about uh
Really
work
think we should
journeys,
put it in the newsletter
relationship.
tomorrow,
Okay.
Tuesday. It'll be right.
Yeah, let's put it in the newsletter.
Why
Let's
not?
do it.
Let's
We
use
want
our ad
topics.
space.
Yes, that's right. We could use our own ad space. I
So
like that. All right, we'll put that in the newsletter. It's funny because every week I always ask for questions in the social media, in the Socialized podcast, so that I have
Mhm.
some topics to answer at the end of the podcast. And then we're finally starting to get people now that are listening that are
Mm.
putting questions in, which is great. But it does take time. And I think people have trouble with open-ended questions. They can't think outside the box. They can,
Yeah.
ask us questions. They can be very basic: dogs or cats, rom-com or scary. Ask us, actually, we should do a this or that episode. I just did a this or that thing for the Olay shoot where it was
Mm.
like treadmill or track, um, skincare routine stuff too. It was like night routine, morning routine, skincare,
Hmm.
or I forgot what the can't remember. I just edited the darn thing on my phone and I can't remember. But anyway, oh yes, another Olay shoot is in my future too. So things are really bopping and bopping. Boppity
It's good.
bippity boppity
It's
boo.
exciting.
It's very interesting what's transpiring there with my social media life blending into my work life in such a
Hmm.
fine way. I like it though. I do, I have to say.
That could also be another episode we talk about.
Oh, yeah, we should tackle that topic. All right, well this was
Write it
fun.
down
Good.
because we never have topics.
Hold on, I'm writing it down. So what did we say? How work life
S-
blends
Social media.
blending to social media life. That's a big topic that I could talk on and you can ask me
It's
questions
just
about
gonna
it.
be me listening. It's gonna be a monologue, and I'll be like,
No,
"Nice,
you have to guide the
cool."
convo with your insights because
Okie dokie.
you see things about you have a different way of looking at things. Just the way you described that Kate Middleton drama, I would never have been able to concisely convey what you said earlier in this episode. No way in hell. I just wouldn't have.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think that's true, but okay.
I do. You have good insights. You have good recap skills on explaining. What about when we were hiking and I was trying to tell you about a show? I was talking for
That
like a
was
half an hour.
hilarious.
I was telling you the details of the plot, but I couldn't just give you
And
the
then you're like,
outline.
why would she do that? Because it's a TV show. It's
And they
if
needs to
she
make it
didn't do
exciting.
if she didn't kill her husband, there would be no TV show.
Oh, that was such a good show. Wilderness. Just remembered the name of it. It was a good one. If you haven't
Nice.
seen it, watch it. All right, Julie. This was a good one. This was fun times. Yours
Super
truly.
fun. Helen and Julie.
Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed the episode today, please give us some questions for next time. That's a big thing. We'd really love to have some of your questions so that we can cater an episode towards the things that you might like to know about us or hear from us. Anyway, get in on Julie's insights because she really has some good insights on things. So we could tackle a topic and go deep with her thinking. And if you want to learn more about social media, you can obviously go to our website, which is beautiful and brand new, hellosocialize.com, where Julie the Queen has organized everything into 3 little categories at the top. So we have learn, and you could pick tutorials, workshops, or courses. You could do about, or you could do podcasts. So you can find everything, one-stop shopping for all your social media help. And our newsletter that comes out twice a week. So if you're not getting it, do sign up. And we will see you on the tickety tockety grams. And that is at the mothership with a U for me. And for Julie, it's at Julie Polisi. That's JuliPolise. Thanks for listening. See you next week.